In Colorado. Let's go live to the courtroom in Colorado, folks, where we have a verdict in the case of the two officers who were on trial for the death of Elijah McClain. This is a live look at the courtroom right now. Control room, talk to me. Is everyone there? Are they about to determine the ruling? In about 15 minutes. All right, so folks, we're going to go to a break, and we come back. We're going to take live this courtroom ruling. That's the young man who was a special needs a young man who was stopped. He was killed by these cops. He was injected with drugs by paramedics as well. This was a shameful case that got lots of attention and then led to a number of folks in the police department and paramedics who were indicted as a result. And two of those former officers, they are on trial. The jury has reached a verdict. The Elijah McClain story, this took place in 2019. 23-year-old African-American man, took place in Aurora, California. It was a violent police encounter. Remember, he was injected with ketamine by paramedics to sedate him. Let's go live to the courtroom, and the verdict is being read in the case of two officers involved in his death.
Jurors have returned. I saw that juror number one was carrying some paperwork. Would I be correct to assume that you are the foreperson of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and has the jury reached unanimous verdicts?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll have my judicial assistant collect the verdict forms. All right, the court has reviewed the verdict forms, presumably signed by the foreperson. The first jury verdict, 21 CR 2782, people of the state of Colorado. We, the jury, find the defendant, Randy Rodima, guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Second verdict form, 21 CR 2782, jury verdict for the charge of assault in the second degree. We, the jury, find the defendant, Randy Rodima, guilty of assault in the third degree. Next verdict reads as follows, 21 CR 2788, jury verdict, charge of manslaughter, reckless. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Rosenblatt, not guilty of manslaughter, reckless, and the lesser included offense of criminally negligent homicide with the signature of the foreperson. Jury verdict, 21 CR 2788, people of the state of Colorado v. Jason Rosenblatt. We, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Rosenblatt, not guilty of assault in the second degree. Do any of the parties wish to have the jurors polled?
There you go. There you are.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when I first spoke with you during the jury selection process, I tried to communicate that other than military service, voting, and a few other forms of public service, there's nothing that our citizens do that is as important to one of the pillars of our democracy, that being a jury trial. The question may now arise of whether you can speak with people about the case, and the answer is, it depends what you want to do. You can talk to people as much as you want to, but if somebody wants to speak with you about it and you're not comfortable doing so, you certainly don't have to, and actually you should report it to the court if somebody persists in speaking to you over your objection. Furthermore, if anybody becomes critical of your service as jurors, you should make me aware of that as well. I'm going to have Ms. Moore take you folks back in the jury room for just a few moments, or perhaps Ms. Emily. And I'll be back and have a few words with you, and then you'll be officially excused. All right. Need her back in. Need Ms. Moore back in the courtroom. With respect to case number 21 CR 2788, People v. Jason Rosenblatt, any bonds or holds are released in this matter.
Thank you. Sir, I assume you did.
You may. In case number 21 CR 2782, People v. Randy Rodema, presumably will need to be setting a sentencing date. Are we requesting a PSI?
Yes, sir.
All right. The court will order a pre-sentence investigation be prepared for Mr. Rodema. I'm not sure if you have a consent of surety, but if you don't, I'll need it to be uploaded or faxed in by noon tomorrow. See if we can find it. What'd you say?
Yes, Friday, January 5th.
That works for the people.
All right, the court will presume we'll get to 1:30.
That works for.
Very well. Anything further?
Yeah. Thank you.
Court will be in recess.
Folks, as you heard right there, the two officers who were on trial for the death of Elijah McClain, one of those officers, Randy Rodema, found guilty on both counts. Jason Rosenblatt, he was found not guilty on both counts. The defense attorneys, they tried to actually blame the paramedics for the death, of Elijah McClain, and actually tried to also blame Elijah McClain for his own death. They both were charged with reckless manslaughter and assault in connection with his death. Rosenblatt was fired. Now, his was interesting. Rosenblatt was fired by the police department. Rodema was suspended. It's Rodema who's found guilty. Rosenblatt found not guilty. This right here, Lauren, was a case that it got attention. It did not get a lot of attention. It happened in Colorado. It was all sorts of drama with the Aurora Police Department. I mean, it was because there were other cases as well. Just your thoughts about this split verdict there in this Colorado courtroom.
Well, yeah, this is one of these cases where were it not for his encounter with the police, this person would be alive, which is, you know, sad to say. It is interesting, there's a split verdict there. One officer acquitted and the other found guilty on what sounds like a very serious charge. Apparently there was a civil lawsuit in which McClain's family, I think, got $15 million. So it seems like the argument, certainly, that something went wrong here is fairly easy to prove, even though it was a very strange case in terms of this whole narrative about him having a ski mask on, which who cares if he had a ski mask on? Of course, this is another case, too, where somebody called the cops on somebody for effectively no reason. And he looks sketchy, whatever that is. And then, the introduction of law enforcement onto the scene turns into an outcome where somebody loses their life, which should never happen. It's interesting that you noted that they tried to blame Elijah McClain for his own death. That's a very familiar theme in these cases. Remember, it was Trayvon Martin's fault that he was dead and Eric Garner's fault that he was dead. But it is still interesting to sort of note just generally that these police officers are going to jail for these things, because I remember when I was a little kid, this was an impossible scenario. And these were the days of Abner Louima.
Right.
And some cases that were like open and shut. Eric Garner's case to me was open and shut too, and nobody has gone to jail for that. So it is interesting that we're seeing a little bit of an uptick here of law enforcement officers actually being prosecuted and going to jail.
Mignon, for anybody who is critical of the Black Lives Matter movement, this is a perfect example why they should shut the hell up. This took place in 2019. Prosecutors initially said they did not have enough to charge these cops. George Floyd dies in May of 2020. That brought renewed attention to this case. It was the pressure, it was the protest and the national pressure that caused the governor of Colorado to appoint a special prosecutor. That led the grand jury to invite both of these cops. Now here we sit 4 years after the murder, and one of these cops found guilty. If it was not for protest, Black Lives Matter taken to the streets, there will be no justice for Elijah McClain and his family.
Absolutely. And the thing that I was thinking about was, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Elijah McClain had some mental health challenges as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, but he was just, so what happened was they placed him, again, he was a massage therapist musician, and he was walking home from the convenience store, plastic bag and some iced tea. They rolled up on him. This is all captured right here. They rolled up on him, immediately snatched him. That's what led to this back and forth, placed him in this carotid hole. And then when the paramedics came, injected him with ketamine, he suffers a heart attack, dies 3 days later.
Right. And I think that some of the comments he was making were sort of like, please remove yourself from my space or something of that nature. In Virginia, I'm also in Virginia. In Virginia, I was just sitting on this Virginia tribunal for it's a tribunal and basically interrogating the practices of police and detention centers and prisons and jails in our state. But the thing that came up to me, and I was on the panel with a woman named Princess Blanding, whose brother is named Marcus David Peters and was murdered by police here in Virginia. And this story, for some reason, with Elijah McClain, always, when I think about Marcus David Peters, I think about Elijah McClain, because both of them were two young Black men that normally, had they not encountered police at the moment in time in which they did, would still be with us today, right? I am forever grateful to all of the protesters and the allies and the accomplices that worked with BLM in order to shed light on some of these cases, because, it's shameful. And, it makes you wonder sort of why they even thought about it all of a sudden. Were they afraid that they were going to get caught, or, what made them think, oh, we need to open up this case again? For whatever reasons they did, I'm very grateful. And yeah, if it weren't for these young people taken to the streets, these young Black people that actually became the catalyst for a greater movement, a multicultural coalition and movement across this country, no, we wouldn't have any attention paid to these. And I'm not even sure that we have justice, quite frankly, because as far as I'm concerned, if old boy was with him, he's complicit too, right? And I don't know on what charges, but, the fact that he's walking is kind of concerning.
Greg, during the trial, a pulmonary critical care physician said point blank that if these cops had listened to Elijah McClain saying, "I cannot breathe," he would be alive. and they said that the paramedics should have intervened. When he kept saying he couldn't breathe, the cops on the scene told nobody that when the paramedics came on there as well. And the prosecutors made it clear, if these officers did not use excessive force, Elijah McClain would still be alive.
Of course, Elijah McClain is dead, and Rodima and Rosenblatt killed him. Now, it is not legally murder for Rosenblatt, but no doubt they killed him. He is dead, and they did it. The third guy, the first cop that had point of contact, that hero, Nathan Woodyard, is later scheduled for trial. I think his trial will be coming up along with paramedics. But like Mignon said, this is really about the people getting out in the street. You know, people think of the law like they're dealing with mathematics or a math equation. You plug this in, this is the outcome. That's simply not the case. The law's capacity to affect some form of now, I hate to use the word justice, because not justice, the man would still be alive. Some form of retribution, some form of punishment is really enhanced by the only thing that supersedes the law's capacity, and that is a critical mass of people. We know when you have enough people in the street, the law all of a sudden becomes flexible and able to do all kinds of things. And if we look at Rosenblatt's attorney made some points during the trial that I think the jury probably listened to and may have in fact changed what they might have done in terms of meting out this punishment. They say it wasn't Rosenblatt that put that jerked his arm. That jerked his arm. It was Rodima. It wasn't Rosenblatt that had the knee in the back. It was Rodima. And Rodima's the one who picked him up and slammed him. I think those are critical distinctions that Rosenblatt's attorney, and I'm sure there have been a number of white supremacists that, you know, they usually flood these GoFundMe or some shadow billionaires that have made Rosenblatt's pockets fat enough to pay his attorney, but he should pay him quite well for making that difference, because I think that probably was critical in the fact that, you know, he obviously escaped punishment and Rodima got it. But again, the guy who was the first on the scene, Woodyard, he's yet up for trial. This isn't over. But yes, I agree with you, Prof. I agree with you, Mignon. This is about people getting in the street and putting people in a place, like that jury was in a place, to affect some form of punishment. And of course, there's more to come.